Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Friday the 18th of May. Now, firstly, just for my regular viewers of this video, just to let you know, I will not be recording these, or I'm very unlikely to be recording these, as I'm on a bit of a road trip, so as of tomorrow morning. So be back on Thursday, so hope you have a great week leading into that. But for now, here's today's daily outlook. Now it's started yesterday. Well, yesterday started and really failed to do much at all yesterday. The range on the euro was the smallest we've seen for quite some time. I do wonder the way it's sort of sitting there. I did yesterday even that we'd sort of run through, put that hammer in. I did wonder if we'd potentially get a bit of upside, and I still have that sort of wonder. But the more it consolidates and doesn't move in either direction, the more it probably looks like there's the potential to roll over. Part of the reason for looking for the upside there was the divergence that we saw on the dailies there, but it seems to be coming to nothing. We saw a divergence on the 4 hourlies there as well, and it's just really consolidated. It's pretty much sideward, so very little in the way of directional pull here at the moment. There is, if it did start moving, there's a sort of the potential that you can easily draw a couple of trend lines on here. I've put this more conservative trend line on the downside here. I'd be looking really to see that break may run us back down to Thursday's lows there. On the upside, well, sorry, it's a live candle, but I find it a bit difficult. It may just pop up into that R1, but it's not. Yeah, and maybe a bit higher. We'll see. But there's very little out today that's likely to drive these markets, and well, we're still a week away from the bank holiday. Okay, let's have a look at the pound. Pound continuing again, consolidation, no direction yesterday, status quo. Then absolutely nothing there, and I wasn't referring to the rock band just before Charlie gets excited. Just nothing to give us direction as opposed to, or any further clues on the direction. We've been seeing this running for well over a week now, this very tight range. There's always that sort of potential for it to push back down towards those prior lows. It seems to be wanting to do this. It's almost doing a very ugly head and shouldery sort of pattern to do so. We'll see. It's as I said, no significant clues there. It's well over. It's 2 weeks now. Pretty much we've been sitting in that tight range. Normally with a range like this, you'd think, well, consolidation, breakdown. So that's why I've got a sort of, and that's why I'm sort of favouring the downside on this market particularly. There's no divergence or anything that's in existence any longer. Dollar yen. Now this one was the bit of a movie, and it did it again yesterday. Managed to push up through the R1 there, and well, it's my favourite in terms of movement at the moment, in a sense. But come London session, it's not so easy to get into. We saw it yesterday. Actually, yesterday it did actually take off around about 7 o'clock and just pipped up a little bit there. But the previous days, not necessarily always the simplest of things to get into. You can chop for quite some time. Where's it going to be today? Well, I've got some potential. There's daily pivot sitting below it. At least it had some movement yesterday. There is that potential. That could still provide some buying opportunities if it gets that far down. At the moment, it's still looking like, well, it's got a smaller flag here. May get down to that 60.21 there, and then have a shove up. Didn't get extreme here or anything, so there's no guarantee that it's going. Well, never any guarantees in the markets, but there's no massive probability that it's going to push back up that way. But just purely on the trend basis that we're seeing here, there is that potential. Aussie dollar, Aussie. Another one yesterday, indecisive sort of candle. Well, it's a selling candle really yesterday, but today, well, it's not really giving us a lot of clues either. And you see this sort of whole afternoon. I mean, I talk quite often. Well, it did break at 11 o'clock in the end. That trend line that I drew on there. There's potential again, and once again we could draw a trend line across the lows here and see if it breaks later in the morning into the afternoon, as if it starts selling off. but as I said, very little in the way. There's only Canadian news out at 1:30, and that's CPI, inflation and retail sales. Unlikely to be any drivers there for or speakers, I should say. As an FOMC speaker at 8 a.m. this morning, but speaking at the ECB, but I don't really see too much in the way of speakers coming out in the meantime. So perhaps we're just going to end up with a day of more of the same. Being away next week, we did order that the markets won't do too much, so we don't miss out on too much. But the law is whenever we're away, there's some of the biggest moves that ever always occur. So I wouldn't be shocked if something happened next week to create some volatility in these markets. Canadian dollar here, from a daily perspective, it's chopping. It's almost looking like it wants to put a lower high in it. Yesterday we put a hammer in. It's not really given me too much of a clue either way. I'm just going to bring oil into play again. Brent yesterday pushed up quite high, but the Western Texas didn't get quite so high. It didn't hit the it's $80 Brent yesterday, I read somewhere. 71, so yeah, so it's not really doing too. It did have a pitch up to 72 there. Consolidation through this Asian session, which isn't unusual, which leaves us with the Canadian dollar not really going too far at the moment. And if that oil price comes off, I'm just sort of looking at this sort of price action here, and maybe a break of this trend line across the highs here makes it my bigger picture favoured direction is still to the upside, but we'll see. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. Hope you have a great day, great week next week, and the earlier days. As I say, I'll be back on Thursday with some videos. Maybe see if I can get a weekly one done before then, so a bit more of an outlook, a bit more upper look at the higher time frames over the weekend. I say over the weekend, tomorrow, this evening, if I can get a chance, and if I can get the cotton analysis in there. Okay, have a great one anyway. Bye for now.